Welcome back to another episode of the Device Diaries. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited today because this guest is super, super special. I can't wait for you guys to hear what he has to say. Today's episode I titled, by the way, it's episode 20. I titled A Journey Back in Time, Exploring the Old School Grind of Being a Med Device Rep. And who better person to talk about it than Mr. Wade Grunwald. Welcome to the show, Wade.
Good morning, Gaida. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
All right. So before we get started, I want everybody to know who Wade is.
So I've been working in device sales since 2000. So I got just about 25 years. Right now, I work as an independent contractor and represent multiple device manufacturers. Before that, I worked for DePuy Spine for about 12 years. And when they merged with Synthes, I went out on my own and picked up a bunch of companies and continued with what I'd been doing before, with just a multiple sourcing of different manufacturers. Filling a bag, as they call it.
That's awesome. I love that story because it's such a different world now, you guys, as you guys know. Like we've evolved in med device. I used to be in spine and Wade knows the grind of a spine rep. So I kind of want to pick Wade's brain on like back then, there's no freaking LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn, I think started like later on, all the professionals are getting onto LinkedIn. Back then it's literally like door-to-door sales. So can you walk us through what that looks like, Wade?
When I started, you're right. There wasn't LinkedIn. There wasn't anything online. I used to go down to the medical library at the university to educate myself on the medical industry and specifically the devices themselves, anatomy, physiology, the terminology. When somebody like me who had never been in the medical business before, learning the medical terminology was like learning a foreign language. So we spent hours and hours teaching myself the medical language, how the implants worked, how they work with the tools, how to communicate with the doctors. Basically, I was, just starting something new. So it was pretty intense to work all day and then sit down at the library 3-4 hours a night and educate myself so I could communicate with my customers.
That's awesome. That's such a great answer. And back then it's so different. Like I remember when I first started in spine, and I'm not even close to Wade's experience. There was YouTube. So I would watch YouTube videos. And, back then there weren't really, the training was great, but not as good as my training now. So I had to learn on my own. And, learning about anatomy and physiology is one thing. Learning about sales is another thing. Like sales is almost a skill on its own. Let's talk about that for a second, Wade. What do you say about that?
Yeah, you're right. I had been in sales before. I'd had a couple of businesses. I was self-employed before that, and I was selling more to the general public. But you're right. Sales is again a separate thing that you learn. But when I meet new people or I interview candidates for jobs, one of the questions I always ask is, what do you think sales is? And as you can imagine, you get a huge variety of answers. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding out what your customer wants and then fulfilling those needs. It's really that simple. And the only way to find out what your customer wants is to ask questions. Go in there and ask every question that you can, not only professionally, but in our particular business, because we work so closely with our surgeon customers, we have to learn what they like personally. So because you spend so much time with them, they want to know you and know that you're an upfront guy, that you're knowledgeable about what you're selling, that you're knowledgeable in the OR so you can help them if they get into trouble. There's a lot of things that they want to know about you, not only professionally, but personally, because you spend a lot of time with these surgeons, and because they work so much, they don't have a lot of free time to socialize and stuff. So part of the people that they work with, I think, in their offices and especially their reps, are part of their social life. So they want to like you as much as you hopefully like them.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys, that's so huge. And I talk about this a lot, Wade. And it's funny because people look at me funny when I'm like, you gotta treat your customers like they're your lovers. I mean, it's kind of like dating 101. You know, you have to like almost like, basically, how are you gonna treat somebody that you care for, right? You're gonna tell them the truth. You're gonna communicate with them constantly. You're gonna hang out with them. It's just part of the gig. But the question here, Wade, is how do you separate like the personal relationship you have with them from the work relationship you have with them?
Yeah, that's a tough question. And I think a lot of reps or just salesmen in general can't blur those lines a lot of times with their customers. And when they do that, they may actually lose a customer because they may cross over that line on how far a customer wants to get to know you personally and them to know that and you to know them personally. And if you cross over, sometimes you can lose a customer that way. At the same time, if you're very cold and you're not, you don't warm up to people very well, you might not ever get the chance because they don't think you're somebody that they want to be around. So, it's like everything in life. You don't put yourself out there too much, but at the same time, you don't hold too much back. You just be a nice person, be kind to them. If they want something, do what you can to serve their needs. Help them every chance that you get. Meet for a beer with them every now and then, just to see how their life is going and they can see how you're doing, and you develop relationships. Most of the surgeons that I work with, we've been working with for 10, 15 years, because once they get to know you and they like you and you provide not only the implants and instruments that they need to complete a job, and that you are professional in the OR and all the other things that go on top of it, these people, a lot of these customers you can have for a long, long time. And it's a wonderful experience. It's just wonderful to get to know these guys. They are fantastic people. The majority of them are super honest, extremely hardworking, good family men, most of them, or women. I haven't had the pleasure of working with any women surgeons as of yet, but same applies. So getting to know them is a privilege. And it makes your life better. You want to be more like them because they are so smart. They're so driven. Some of them are fun. It's just a great work-life balance.
Yes, and it's pretty interesting. I love having just random conversations with them. I remember when I first started as a rep, I was so scared. I was so scared because I didn't know where to draw the line. I'm like, should I be super friendly? I'm a female, so it's like a female-male kind of relationships. It's a little bit different. So I have to be respectful towards their spouse as well. So it's a little tricky for me. But then I learned, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just like me. They're human beings. They're not robots. They have actual lives. They have a hobby. A lot of times, like I had a surgeon way, like every time I try to sell him stuff, I'm like, shut up, Gaida, stop selling me stuff. Tell me what you like to eat. What is your favorite restaurant? Let's talk about that for a second, Wade. Why is it important? A lot of times as people don't really care about your products because it's a Me Too thing. They care about the person they're working with, right? Let's talk about that more.
Yeah. And Gaida, you should get into that a little bit more too, being a female. You have worked and continue to work in a male dominated business. I don't know what the numbers are anymore, but I would guess it's still less than 5% of females in this business. And you should really speak to that to your listeners about what you have to do as a female. I consider it fairly easy as a male to create a relationship with these surgeons. As a female, you got a whole nother thing going on because they have wives. I know a lot of surgeons that they can't work with female reps because they're afraid their wives will get jealous of it. And they don't want their wives don't want them spending a lot of time with a female rep because they're nervous about that. And then there's some surgeons that cross that line in reps and bring out reputations and things like that. So you should speak a little bit, and we'll come back to what I think, but I'd like you to speak a little bit on your experience as being a woman in this business. And you've got a lot worse tightrope to walk regarding that than I do, or any man in this business. So talk about that a minute.
Oh, I love that way. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh, I've never gotten interviewed by my guest.
It's not an interview. It's you explaining to your listeners what you have to do differently. So we need more women in this business.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So
yes,
you're the person can lead them that way.
What I've learned is you gotta get to know your surgeon. Okay. So the way I do it when I was in spine, I would a lot of times, okay, ladies, listen, take notes. A lot of times their manager, the office manager, are their wives. Mm-hmm. All right. So the first thing I do is get to know the wife and make sure the wife is comfortable of me, like being around their husband. I always invite the wives, always invite them. Even if they don't come, invite them, bring them gifts. I mean, come on, guys, bring them gifts, show them attention, and be very respectful and professional. When I was working as a spine rep, it was rough for me because I was getting hit on left and right, and it could be pretty aggressive. And I would straight up say, hey, I understand this goes on, but what I know, I have my values and my morals, and I'd rather lose your account than basically sleep with you or do whatever it is that you want me to do just to get your business. I understand other women are doing that, but I'm not. I also had a boss that wanted me to date surgeons, and I basically quit and said, nope, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter. And he goes, and the boss says, ex-boss, X for a reason, was like, well, then you're doing it all wrong. Then you're never going to be successful as a female rep in this industry. And I told him, let me show you how it's done. And for the longest time, I've stuck. I told myself, Gaida, with whatever it is that you do in your life, always stick to your values and your morals. And I know it's going to be a longer path, but it's going to be a better path because people see through people. And I think the more authentic I became and just like show them, I mean, I learned, look at my nerdy glasses. I would like walk in the OR with my nerdy glasses. Hey guys, I'm a total nerd. How nerdy do you want me to be today? And they're like, Gaida, bring it on. Like, I want the freaking super nerdy Gaida. Got it. And then there's times where, hey Gaida, can you just tone it down a little bit? Got it. So you guys have to be able to read the room as well, And for me, going back to being a female in the industry, I was struggling at one point in my career because I was doing a lot of fitness stuff. So I was in fitness magazines. And I remember walking into the OR and my article with me half naked was literally on the boom of every boom in the OR. And something that I was supposed to be proud of turned into something that I was so horrified because they're looking at me now as a piece of meat. And there was already a patient that's in the OR. And I basically respectfully said, hey guys, can we just focus on the patient right now? Thank you. I appreciate it. But this is not the role I'm trying to play today. And, this article, I literally that was the most embarrassing day of my life. I couldn't even post about it. I deleted every post that's anything to do with fitness because I was embarrassed of like, oh, you can't mix med device with your hobbies. Well, now I call BS on that. Because now I started doing all these things. And I think until you show people who you truly are and what your intentions are, they don't care. They don't care because they have their own lives to worry about. They have their own wives and kids to worry about. So just worry about you, and don't let the male dominated thing really kind of get into your head, females, because sometimes a lot of times, Wade, I found that women are now starting to use it as an excuse so they can be weak. And I'm like, male or female, it doesn't matter. We both have our own skill set. We both have our own weaknesses and strengths. So stop worrying about that. Worry about your customers. Worry about your patients. Customer comes first. Patient safety comes first. Boom. Back to you, Wade.
Great answer. And one of the reasons I wanted to know that is my daughter started in this business a couple of years ago. So she's facing some of these same challenges that you've already been through. And let's face it, especially men in our business have a tendency to be alpha males. And one of the ways that alpha males try to get ahead is by denigrating somebody else. And women are very easy praise for that, for starting rumors. Oh, if this doctor's working with this woman, he's definitely sleeping with her and all this stuff. And they start these rumors just to try to make whatever female's working with a surgeon just to make them feel bad about themselves and what they're doing. And it's really a terrible thing. And I know my daughters and I have had conversations about this, and you're right. You have to learn how to just ignore the noise. I mean, that's a lesson for social media too. You have to learn to ignore and just forget about all the crap that people send out there, because people are mean. They're trying to hurt you for their own benefit or to make themselves feel better. And don't let people do that to you, especially women in our business. I feel really bad for them. But women like you and my daughter, who are very smart and understand how important it is to maintain your values and to do the right thing, and to remember you're there for the patient and to serve that doctor so he can give the best care to that patient. And if you never lose sight of that and you cut out all the noise, you're on a great path to a great career and a really rewarding career, because you're helping other people. So it was really nice to hear you say what you did. That's cool. Thank you.
I always, my motto in life, Wade, is that be careful sharing your dreams to non-dreamers. Be careful sharing your beliefs to non-believers.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And that's huge for me. And I remember people were like, why are you trying to explain yourself to somebody that is not on your level? I only listen to somebody's advice that I respect. If I don't respect you as a person, why would I care about what you have to say? Because obviously I'm making it and you're not. So that's what I'm saying, like, right?
And especially if it's negative, and so many people, you know this too, Guy, the hospitals are patent places. They are soap operas, and the people that work in them seem to like that. And most people that subscribe to that kind of behavior and tone are usually kind of miserable in their own lives. So don't pay it no mind. Just do your job, provide the information that's needed for the surgeon to do his job for the patient in the surgery, to always be prepared. And you're going to be just fine. And this isn't only true, I think, in the medical business. I think it's true in every business. Just keep your head down and do your job and enjoy your life and your family and your customers. Just keep a good attitude, because life is really good.
It is.
Especially if you're in medical sales.
Amen. Red Hat Gang, baby. That's what they call us now, Red Hat Gang. I love it.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about, you mentioned preparation. Okay. And I had an episode talking about the power of preparation. So what does that mean for you, Wade? What does it mean to prepare for a case? What does that look like?
So most of it starts off, obviously, with education. Understanding anatomy, physiology, understanding what the surgeon's going to do. Because a lot of people don't understand, when we get a booking, they just say fusion L4-5, and that's all it says, period. You've got to know what your surgeon's preferences are so you can have everything that you need at that case. And you remember, if you're in the middle of a case and you got a patient filleted wide open, you can't run out to your trunk of your car and go get some stuff that you forgot. It's got to be done the day before, or in some instances 2 days before, because they have to sterilize it and prepare it. So you have to understand what your surgeon is going to do. Then you have to start thinking about, well, what are all the things that can go wrong with this? What happens if he strips out a pedicle and he needs to put in a bigger screw? Or what happens if he blows out a pedicle out the lateral wall? And what can he do to fix that? And what equipment do I have to have so he can fix that? One of the things when I first started in this, I was amazed at, and I had my screw-ups and my failures just like everybody does. And I was always blown away by the fact that when these surgeons had a problem and I maybe wasn't experienced enough to bring the right stuff in, how they could figure out a way to get through what they needed to get through and fix, in some ways, my screw ups too, of not being able to do that. But once you are standing in that OR with your pants down, so to speak, because you screwed up, you don't do that again. You know, you make sure that the next time, and hopefully there is a next time, that you have what he wants and needs for anything that can go wrong. So you've got to think outside the box. You don't bring, only what you think he's going to need for that case. You have to bring anything that you think is going to maybe mess up along the way or change, or sometimes they add a level, or there's a whole host of things that they can change their mind, not only right before a surgical case, but intraoperatively while you're in the middle of it. And like I said, you can't go to the trunk of your car and go get something. It's got to be there. So the planning is everything when we're talking about surgery.
Yes.
It's
oh my
very
gosh.
important.
That is such a great answer. And you raised a really good point as far as I think I've seen reps, Wade, and you've seen them too, to where the surgeon is having a hard time. They're in the middle of a case. It's very stressful. And then the surgeon looks at the rep and says, what do I do? And the rep starts lying.
Oh.
And I'm like, let's talk about that. Like, for me, I'm like, surgeon, I don't know. But I can find out and make a phone call for somebody more experienced than I am. And a lot of times, like what you said, they figure that out. So let's talk about that. Why is it important not to lie to your surgeons?
Well, and this is how you keep a customer for a long, long time. You don't lie to them, because when you do lie to them, they'll figure it out eventually. And that's the reason why that's probably the biggest reason why a lot of surgeons will switch reps and working with different companies, is because a rep has lied to them. If you lie to them and something, you can make a bad situation worse by telling a lie in the OR. And if you don't know something, you're just honest with them and tell them, you're right, I don't know. But hopefully you know somebody you can call. And one of the things I learned when I was first getting started is the more ways that you have to get a surgeon out of a mess that they're in, the more associated or loyal they will become to them, because they know you can help in the OR. I'll tell you a little story. I think I'd been at this for about 2.5 years, and I was working with a neurosurgeon. And this guy, really good guy. We got to be good friends after all this. But he was, I was in, you know what? I'd only been at it for about 1.5 years, and I had brought in some stuff, and he asked me a question about it, and I told him I don't know, and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing in my OR? What are you doing here? Why are you taking up space? Why are you breathing the air?
Oh gosh.
I asked you to come in here and bring your products in here, and the only thing I'm asking you to know is that particular product." And I said, "Well, I can call somebody." And he goes, "I haven't got time for you to get out." And this is before cell phones. We could use cell phones in the OR. He goes, "I don't have time for you to go out and make a call for it." And he actually threw me out of his OR. But he gave me another chance later on, when I think I was just selling bone graft at that time. But he gave me another chance, I don't know, 6 months later, and we ended up doing cases together for about 8 years until he moved. I actually ended up buying his house when he moved. And we're still friends. He lives in Florida. Whenever I go to Florida, I see him. So I work with him for a long time. But I think after a while you learn that they have you in there for a reason, and you've got, and that's all being prepared, being able to speak the language, being able to communicate with them in a way that they can understand. One of the things that I learned real quick too is you never use the word whatever. That's a bad word. That's like saying F you to somebody. That is a bad word in the OR. Or the thing. Oh, put this thing over there, or that thing over there. They want the words to be used. Remember, we're only getting paid as reps to give advice in the OR if we can communicate properly. We don't do anything else in there. We communicate. And if you don't have the ability to communicate, learn. I wasn't a very good communicator when I started, but I had to learn how to communicate effectively using medical terminology and terminology that they understood. So they didn't have to go, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a bad thing. But you can develop all these skills. I'm walking proof of it.
Yes. So, amen. And you don't have to have a clinical background, you guys.
No.
And, you know, I mean, Wade didn't have a clinical, I didn't have a clinical background, but it's all a skill. And it's funny because I've talked to other reps like, oh God, I can't do what you're doing. Oh my gosh, you're talking about disease states. Wait. You don't have a clinical background. I'm like, don't you get it? I said, we're there to be able to communicate the same language to our customers. If you all you know is your product and you don't understand anatomy, you don't understand disease states, get out of here. You're never going to last as a rep. You know, you have to learn that stuff. Lateral, medial. I mean, I'm like, for me, I would translate it in Tagalog. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Even like, doc, away from you, towards me, you know, like there's all these different things that you can do away from the head, towards the head. They understand that stuff. All right. And you learn that as you go. And a lot of times you guys have to understand too, we can't touch stuff. Let's talk about that, Wade. We can't touch anything. Why? Okay. Why is it, again, back to communication? I want you to really make our listeners understand what it looks like in the OR. Like, where do we stand? What can we touch? What can we point? All that stuff.
So ORs differ in where they'll allow you to be sometimes. Some are more strict than others. There are circulating nurses that are strict in the ORs about what you can do and what you can't. But for the most part, you know, we're just in there, like you said, to communicate with not only the surgeon, but with the scrub tech. One of the best things you can do is learn your surgeon's algorithm during surgery, so the tech can have whatever they need in their hand before the surgeon even asks for it. I mean, these surgeons that I've worked with for a long time, I can go into a case and they don't have to even ask a tech for anything. They just, you know, the tech just gives them the next thing because I know what they need or what they're going to want. And I can have the tech be ready with it. And that's part of it too. There's some of these surgeons that are just boom, 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 go, go, go. They're like that in their lives. They have to be. They already work 12, 14 hours a day. And if they didn't work in a really organized, quick manner, they'd be working 16, 18 hours a day and they wouldn't even get to see their families. So they live their life that way just so they can enjoy a personal life, which for many of them isn't much. So the ability to teach yourself, and again, these are skills you can kind of teach somebody, but you have to have somebody motivated enough to pay attention. We've both been in this business long enough to know reps that just come in there and socialize with the nurses, the anesthesiologists, everybody, but they don't learn anything. They don't learn that they have a purpose in there, and they don't pay attention to their purpose. They think of it as a social outing, and I've been around long enough to know that these kind of people only last 2 or 3 years in this business and they're gone. They can't find anybody to work with.
Yeah.
After a while. So, it's like anything you do in life, the more engaged you are, the more fun it is, the more you learn. One of the things I just love about our business is that you go to work every day and learn something new. I don't think there's anything better in life than that. And this business allows you that opportunity to learn something new every day, and not only learn it, but to apply it, not only in your business life, but a lot of times your personal life. It all spills over. Like I said, you become a better person, a better human being. You increase you increase your ability for self-liking, because the more you learn, the more you can help, the more you can be part of the process or the team. I have a surgeon that I work with in Phoenix that I've worked with since 2010. And he talks all the time about the team that he builds. And one of the reasons that he likes working with him is we help him train his circulating nurses and his techs and even his PAs. when he gets new ones, we're all part of the training process of all those people. And he lets us do that because he knows that we can teach them things that he doesn't have to. And he can create this team to make his life so much easier. So it's fun. It's fun.
It's so much fun. And Wade is so right. You guys have to be part of the team, okay? And a lot of times I tell this to reps. I'm like, hey, so how often do you engage with your, not just the surgeon, but with the circulating nurse, with anesthesia? I mean, how often do you even get to know them? Even the neuromonitoring person, like we are all together there working together. And they're like, oh no, I only care about the surgeon. I'm like, okay, then I give you a year or two, you're out. I'm like, I know my nurses at a personal level. When they're having a hard time, I can read the room and say, hey, I know this is a lot for you. Do you need somebody else to cover? Or do you want to work together? No, Gaida, just tell me what to do. Done. And a lot of times I make their lives easier too. Like if they get stressed out having just 2 screwdrivers in a room, I have, how many do you want? 6. Done. I'm bringing 6 screwdrivers to make your life easy. So you have to understand that too. Like the scrub, you and the scrub, you guys are like this, like buddies. Because they can literally like, oops, I drop an instrument. Do you have a backup? You better have a backup, by the way. That happened to me. I'm like, actually, I have 2 backups. And I have another tray outside in case this tray has a hole. So all those things you have to anticipate as well. And I think for me, I had this surgeon, Wade, believe it or not, he goes, Gaida, stop talking. I don't want you talking in the room. I don't want you talking to my scrub because you're taking away time for me, like asking for stuff. And my scrub keeps looking at you. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, great. Well, that you just took my job. I mean, that's my whole job. So I had to re-strategize. So I will come in 2 hours early. I would train the scrub. I'll have her do, okay, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. And I was doing Scoli, pediatrics. Okay, this is the first thing it's going to do. This is the derotation set. And then this is our, when we're closing. And I'll just point at it. And I said, I'll have a sign. So I literally made a sign, wait, like this, just so I can like get the case going. And then I've gotten so good at getting to know my surgeon to where I even know the screw sizes and diameters. I would like look at the pedicle. I'm like, okay, he's just pull out a 5.5 or he's going to do a 6.5. Look at the patient. So all those things adds value, guys. And I was able to cut the case almost 2 hours because I can anticipate what can go wrong. Now, not everything is one size fits all. And sometimes things can go wrong, right? I mean, there's other people involved in the room, like anesthesiologists. A lot of times the surgeon and anesthesiologists are yelling at each other because the surgeon's like, you numb my patient too much. Now there's no motors, all these things. So you guys just have to be able to kind of navigate around that. And don't be a know-it-all too, it's okay to say, hey, PA, what do you think I should do in this situation? I'll be best friends with their PA, by the way, best friends. Because they're the ones that are going to like, hey, let me show you the case. Let me show you the MRI. Let me show you the x-ray, right? And I've learned so much from them because they will teach me. They would teach me. They taught me what an inner spinous process is, what a pedicle is, what a lamina is. They taught me all that stuff. And it's cool to have those things. But there's another side of it. And I really want to hear Wade's opinion on this. SPD, cleaning people. Those people that are typically unseen. Why is it important to build the same amount of relationship with them?
That's a really good point. When you first bring instruments down, these are the people that make sure that they put everything together right, that they clean and sterilize your instruments correctly. Because you can, if they don't do their job right, a case can cancel, or a surgeon. I've seen surgeons use somebody else's equipment that's already up sterile just because they didn't do their stuff right, or something else happened down in SPD. So if you communicate correctly with SPD, just like you do in the OR, this is what we talked about earlier about the importance of really good communication. And another thing, you talking about circulating nurses and PAs and scrub techs and everything, complement these people. The same thing with your SPD staff. These people work really, really hard. And they're trying to do the best they can, but nobody ever tells them that they're doing a great job, or nobody tries to explain them why are you doing the things that I asked you to do. People just tell them to do something and they expect them to do it. We'll take a few minutes and tell them why that has to be done that way. And if they know the why, they're twice as likely to get it right. And that's true of everything. Don't be afraid to explain the why of things. It's very important. Again, the effective communication in what we do is just huge. And again, do it in a nice way. And compliments go so far, especially to people that never get them. So please take the time and tell people what a great job they're doing, how you enjoy working with them, and you look forward to seeing them again. It takes 15 seconds to compliment somebody, and it lasts a lifetime. It's wonderful. So take time and do that.
It's such a good feeling too. And what I find too, Wade, I don't know if I'm sure you do this because you're Wade and you're awesome. I would make their lives easier. So I'll be like, when I go to SPD, I said, hey, I don't need this tray set up right away. When will be a good time for me to come back? Because you guys are obviously slammed, you're doing they're turning rooms, so they're busy. And a lot of other reps I find, they're all about themselves. So we're like, oh, I just want to go home and have my beer or whatever it is. I'm like, I would literally hey, don't worry about washing my trays tonight. I'll come back. They're like, Gaira, is the weekend okay? I said, heck yeah, it's okay. What time on the weekend? Well, can you come between this? I'm done. So the moment I started doing that, they really would take care of my stuff, and they'll tell me, hey, Gaira, there's another rep checking out your stuff, just FYI. They would watch my stuff like a hawk. Let's talk about that for a second, Wade. Why? I know you know this because you do this a lot. So why is that important?
Yeah, that's huge, and it's too bad it happens. When I first started in Tucson, we had a rep here in town that really kind of controlled the market. He worked with one of the biggest companies, and he was the only one around for a long time. DePuy came in a little bit later, and some of the other companies a little bit after that, but he controlled probably 90% of the market. And once we started getting pretty good at what we were doing 2-3 years into it, we started taking a lot of his market share. So he started doing some shady things like taking screw inserters out of our trays, and we'd open up our trays the next morning and there'd be stuff missing that we knew for a fact was in there the night before when we put them up. And we pretty much knew who to blame because we saw them in there that night when we were there. So having that relationship with SPD so they can not only do their job and put up your instruments and implants correctly, but to have them kind of watch over your stuff for people who are trying to sabotage you is huge. It's really huge. And because it's so competitive, because there's quite a bit of money in the business, it seems to bring out these unscrupulous people in droves. Nobody likes to have money taken out of their pocket. And that's what happens when you start taking market share away from your competitors. Their only way to fight back sometimes is to do things that are really mean and not good for the patient either. So be careful of that, but just be aware. And again, create a good relationship with SPD and they'll help you. Everybody will help you if you help them. It's basic humanity.
Right. Basic humanity is right. And it's crazy. It's funny. All right. So let's go the opposite direction now. Okay. I've had this case. So here's a story for you guys. I had a case where my system was not working properly. Okay. It was just not doing the job. So
what do you mean your system?
My screwdriver wasn't just functioning right. And the surgeon was getting frustrated. And no matter, we tried it 3-4 times, it's just not working properly. So then I was like, okay, what is plan B? So I said, Doc, hang tight. I know there's another set, but it's not my company, but I can rep it for you. And that might work out better for your patient. You're going to do that? Yeah, I just got to freaking call the rep because I need to know which trays I have to pull. So I called the rep. of a different company. Hey, I see all your lumbar stuff set up, which I need your screw. I mean, you have a better screw up. I know that now. That's okay. Can I please use it? And she goes, really? I'm like, yes, done. So I started wrapping his stuff, and I was on the phone with him the whole time. And thank God the scrub that I had was familiar with his stuff. So he was like teaching me. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I love your product. I ended up representing that product later on. I already know how to do it. But why is it important to build relationships with your competitors?
It is, and you know what? I was talking about this. I ran into an older gentleman that had been doing this as long as I had it when my daughter started working in Florida, and we were talking about how the business has changed and become even more competitive than it once was, and how reps don't try to help each other out. When I first started, we used to do that quite a bit, all except for, there's always one or two that won't help. And you learn who those are pretty quickly. And you just stay away from those kind of people. But there's also a majority of people are willing to help you because they know at some point they're going to need help. They're going to need your tray for something. So for the most part, I would say 60 to 70% of the reps are very helpful and want to help, but I think that's dwindling, and it's a shame because we're all there for a patient, for a surgeon and a patient and an outcome, and it doesn't matter whose stuff it is at the end of the day. If that patient can have a better outcome because you're willing to help or you're willing to ask for help, it's a win for everybody at the end of the day. And one thing that a lot of reps do not understand is these surgeons hear every peep and everything that goes on in their OR. And if they know there's a problem and they see that you can fix it, again, that's a big feather in your hat. And it's a good thing. They know that you're there for the patient, and when you show that you really are, and it's just not all talk, it's action behind it, they appreciate it. And again, you have a customer for life.
Amen. And it's funny that the times that I'm like things go south and I figure out a way to fix it, those are the times that I actually build forever relationships. And I can't tell you guys, I still talk to the surgeon who gave me a shot. And the only reason why he gave me a shot, so I would go to his office, pediatric guy, biggest pediatric guy in Arizona. He's retired now, but I would go to his office and like pretty much every week, like ask for lunch. And he goes like, well, reps are not welcome here. I don't do lunches. So I'll keep dropping off my business card. And then finally I got a call from his front desk, like, Gaida, he's curious about your last name and the history of your last name. Well, that was my married last name, so it wasn't even Lovetis. So I said, wait a minute, does that mean I have a shot? Can I please bring lunch? No, he doesn't want you to bring lunch. He just wants you to show up with your product. So I showed up with my product. And the first, he didn't even want to talk about it. It's like, it went like this. And I said, okay, well, what am I here? I had this presentation ready to go. I was like, have all these options of like handles for my screwdriver. Do you have pineapple handle? Do you want straight handle? How long do you want it? Like I had everything. He goes like this. He goes, what do you like to eat? I'm like, what? I was like, what do you like to eat? I'm like, well, doc, I'm a foodie. So I'm like, I like to eat everything. Do you like, she's like, what did he say? He's like, do you like cupcakes? Oh, I love cupcakes. He goes, do you like Thai food? Heck yeah, I love Thai food. Okay. I'll give you a case. I said, okay, don't you even want to look at my stuff? No, I'll look at it in the room, in the OR. I know your stuff. I've looked it up already. I know your stuff. I said, holy crap. Okay. Yeah. So I showed up initially with my ex-boss. And then he pulled me aside and said, Gaida, get rid of that guy. I want to see you. He told me that. I want to see you. Like, you're just in the corner. You're letting him mansplain you. He's like, I want to hear your voice. I want to see what you got. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like sweating bullets, right? And then I did my first case. It went well. Thank God. Knock on wood. And then after that, he goes, if you're going to be my rep, 2 things. I said, yes, surgeon, doc, God. Like, Your Honor, what do you want? He goes like, you're not going to let anybody mansplain. I said, okay. And I want to hear your voice more. Okay. So I started doing that. And guess what, guys? He started teaching me about deformities, about the anatomy. He taught me everything I know. Okay. And this guy was working with a big med device company, fired him completely, switched to me, gave me all his business. I was doing 40 to 50 cases a year in spine. So that's my biggest account. Oh my gosh, I was making bank. And it wasn't even about that. It's about like that feeling of like, wow, like somebody actually believed in me, you know? And they do, you know, and he saw something in me. And I remember at the darkest times of my life, I was still repping for him. So this was when I was going through divorce. And I remember him pulling me outside of the OR saying, "You're not yourself. You look like a cancer patient. You lost a lot of weight. What is going on?" And I was trying to hold back tears because I wanted to be professional. And I remember putting his hand on my shoulder and I just started bawling. And then I told him what's going on. And then he goes, He goes, "I want you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move on." And then I was like, "Ooh." He goes, no more tears. So then we went back to in the room and he kept looking at me. Case went well. And I remember the last day when his retirement, the last surgery he did, I took a picture of him, like putting his last screw. It got so emotional. We did this group photo. We clapped for him. And then he retired, right? And then after he retired, I remember him calling me because he checks on me all the time. "How's it going? How are you doing?" And I said, "Doc, I got a new job." He's like, "Thank freaking God." I didn't want you in that position anymore. I said, "Yes, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was you retiring, because that's how I got out of the other business, the other company, right?" And then he goes, and then I said, "There's one thing I want to thank you about, and I have to say this from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you for telling me to stop being a victim and for telling me to really dust myself off because, you know, you saw something in me that I didn't see myself." And then he goes, "Thank God, guy, I was worried about you." And then I remember he would send me gifts all the time, Wade, for my birthday. Doesn't miss a thing. He built me a table because he's like, you know, a lot of these dogs have hobbies, right? Like whether it's cars or, so he built me a wooden, I have it like, you know, I'm looking at it right now. It's basically a table. And I put all my pictures on there. And I remember him putting it in his truck, delivering it, you know, to my apartment. And he goes like, and I would take photos of it. He's like, "What color do you like? I want to put a gem for you on there." So that's like relationship at its finest, right? We're not talking like, you know, situationship. In dating right now, we have a term called situationships. This is real stuff, you guys. And this is where the real bonding long-term relationship forms. And it's nothing sexual at all. This is all like, I look at him like my dad. And let's talk about that. And, you know, and you have a daughter, and I'm sure, you know, she gets advances by other surgeons. Like, what advice do you tell her so she can kind of keep her head up and, you know, she can keep going?
I want to go back just real quick to what you were saying about your surgeon teaching you so much. That's one way. Some of these surgeons are very, they want to teach people. They want to share their experience and they want you to learn. And some of them will be very verbal about that. But there's other ways to do that. I had a surgeon that moved here to Tucson and he was right out of his residency and fellowship. And he'd been trained by one of the best deformity guys out of New York, out of Boachi. And he came into town and he was just a really smart guy, really, really nice guy, but he wasn't verbally teaching. But I learned so much. I watched every single move he made, every detail of what he did, why he did it. And after you work with these guys for a while and you really spend time on watching what they do, why they do it, what their algorithms are, their planning before a case, all of these things, you can learn a ton just by being present and paying attention to every single detail. Do not go in there and yak it up with the nurses and engage in all the crap that goes on out there. Go in the OR and not only be engaging, but watch every move and detail that these guys make, because that's how you learn. This guy taught me so much that I developed my own DVR system, and we are now marketing it out into the country. And it works really good. And if it wasn't for him and his attention to detail and just the way he did things and me watching every move, I would have never done that. And that's another thing too, is paying attention, not only so you can help them and teach other surgeons, because believe it or not, reps can see 5-10 times more surgeries than a surgeon can perform in a week, a month, a year. And because we see what other surgeons do, we share that information many times with them. And a lot of times they don't verbalize what they're doing. They think they're just doing their job. But if you're paying attention and you're learning, you're engaged, you're curious, and you see something that they do, and you can apply that to another surgeon that maybe gets into trouble with something and needs help. Oh, you know what? I saw this surgeon do that, this, that, and those things. So again, you're not only helping with everything that's going on, you're teaching them something that may be something different that they hadn't thought of or read about or something like that. Again, you're bringing value. Now, getting back to my daughter, what was the question with my daughter again now?
So what do you tell your daughter in times to where, you know, she's just like not herself, she's probably getting hit on by surgeons? Like, how do you make sure that she keeps going, keeps focusing on like customer service, her surgeon's needs, patient safety first? Like, how do you get her out of the funk? Because I remember the first year I wanted to quit. I'm like, this is too much for me. Like, what advice do you give her? I mean, this will be too for women reps that are listening right now. That are probably going through the same thing. I mean, listen to Wade, to what advice he would give to his daughter. It's just like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm done.
So I've been very fortunate with my daughter. First of all, she's a very confident young lady. So she doesn't have, in fact, I could make the argument that she's a little overconfident too sometimes. And she doesn't let, you know, people that are hitting on her and those kinds of things. She just turns away and goes, ugh. You know, she's just turned off by it. And I think she does it in a way that's not only nice, but serves a point that, you know what, that behavior is not appropriate, and don't do that to me again. And as a female, you have to, a lot of times women are trying to be so nice that they don't want to give off, you know, that they're maybe a bitch or something like that, which is ridiculous. Guys can be bitches all they want to and get away with it. And if a women say something, all of a sudden you're a bad person. And it's terrible, the gender discrimination that goes on. But she carries herself a certain way. I don't have to deal with a lot. Most of the things that I've had to deal with her are, she's never understood how important it is to learn anatomy of physiology, learn the language, learn the details, all the hard work that goes into it, especially your first 2 or 3, even 4 years before you can start getting comfortable with it. And I think she never told me, you know, this is too hard, I want to quit or anything. But at the same time, she didn't put the work in that she really needed to put in to be as good as what she could be. And now that she's been doing it for a couple of years, she's starting to understand that. But most of her anxiety came from just being overwhelmed by all of it. I remember what you said about wanting to quit after the first year. And I'm not much of a drinker or those kinds of things at all. But I remember I'd been in it for 9 or 10 months. And for some reason, I went with some friends and got a little buzzed. And that state of mind, I was just like, man, Wade, what did you get into? Oh, my God, are you going to be able to do this? I mean, you get so overwhelmed that sometimes anxiety can get the worst of you, or self-doubt, or all these things, but you really got to plow through those things, and time takes its course. You learn, and the more you learn, it just piles on top of each other to the point where you're confident in everything you do. And then it becomes just a joy to go to work. It's just wonderful after that. So I wish I could speak a little bit more. My daughter's personality is a little different than a lot of other people's as far as her confidence level, her self-worth, all those kinds of things. My wife has done a wonderful job on teaching her that, there's no man out there that's any better than you, and don't let anybody tell you any different. And she has that attitude. And you really got to have that. You not only in what we do, but in life itself. People will only treat you as bad as you let them. So don't let them.
Wow, you guys, I hope you wrote that down. I say it differently. I say, like, you show people how you want to be treated, but it's the same exact thing, And in life, in relationships, in your work life, personal life, same exact thing, you guys. Because people show you who they truly are and what they want from you from the get-go. It's your job to take the blinders off and just, really read the room. Like, emotional intelligence is huge in relationships, personal or work. It doesn't matter, you guys. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. Wait, can you believe it? We have 4 minutes left. See, I know it goes fast. I told you the hour goes fast. Okay, so I want to leave you this time to talk about you, Wade, and talk about how can they find you, where can they find you, how can they follow you. Talk about your son. Oh my gosh, his son is so amazing. I freaking respect him. Smartest kid on earth. Talk about that a little bit so people can get to know you better.
So finding me, I don't do social media. I'm older and it's not something I need in my life. And I prefer to say what Betty White used to say about Facebook. I found it to be a huge waste of time. And when you get to be my age, time is the only thing that you really have that's valuable. So I don't do social media, but my son is Dalton Gronwald, and you can look him up. He's on the social media and stuff. He is, like Gaida said, like you said, Gaida, he's turned into an amazing young man. He was always a little immature when he was younger, and he got out of college and he said he wanted to come work with me. And we've always gotten along really well. And I was scared to death of it, but he learned really, really fast. He had the same thing I did. The first time he got into a case and watched a surgery being performed and everything, he was smitten. He was hooked. Mm-hmm. He was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm fascinated. I'm engaged. I want to do this. And that love and that curiosity just made him just move forward. He learned this stuff twice as fast as I did. The internet helped that a lot, but you have to put forth the effort. You have to love it. We all know people that love sports and know every detail about sports, but when they go to work, they don't know anything about their job. I found that ridiculous. We are all experts in something that we love or love to do. So love your job. Find something you really like to do. Become an expert in that, and love getting up every morning and going to work. And the only way you do that is to be curious and be engaged. So yeah, if you want to talk to me, find my son, Dalton Gronwald. He's all over all social media like most people his age, and tell him you want to talk to me about something, and he'll give you my number.
There you go. Or you guys can contact me. I'm all over social media. I got Wade's number, but I'm protective of Wade, so you better have something to offer. Otherwise, you won't be getting his number. All right? All right, guys. Oh my gosh, this has been such a freaking great episode. What better way to end it than what Wade said about being curious. You guys, be curious, okay? Life is about growing. If you're not growing, if you're not changing, if you're not aspiring for more, dream bigger. You're not dreaming big enough. And my whole life, that's all I've done. The times that I was too comfortable, I'm like, Gaida, you're not dreaming big enough. And yes, there is a point for things to calm down. But for me personally, if I'm not growing, might as well be dead. All right, guys, I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Device Diary. And thank you, Wade, for that valuable insight, for your knowledge, for your experience. I really appreciate you. I respect you. I look up to you so much in this space. Again, if you want to find Wade, talk to me or Dalton about it, and we'll talk. But other than that, you guys have a freaking great day. Again, this episode will come out this coming Monday, so be sure to watch out. Thank you. Be strong, be brave, and be you. Bye, everyone. Thanks,
Guida,
Wade.
Guida, thank you, and I'm very, very proud of you.
Yeah.